wash my hair. Like,
I'll pull this back. You want me to put it in a ponytail? I can. I just look fucking weird.
your hair still looks fine. Mine looks all happy.
All right, do your thing.
What's up, people? No, I recorded that shit. No, they heard that. People, you guys can probably.
Well, dang, now everyone knows I got a nappy ass head now.
We're gonna talk yourself over that shit eventually.
Shut up, Ganja. Comb your ends, bitch.
He was. By the way, too, I like how this motherfucker, like, you try to think you're all cool and shit, Ganja, but you're over here combing your hair and making sure you look all pretty before the show.
Over here thinking he's cooler than me. He ain't.
I gotta make sure my camera points so I don't look raggedy like Jet's hair right now.
I'm being camera shot here.
There we go. See, there you go, Christian. Isn't that nice to get to make eye contact with somebody and everything?
It is. I love it. It's much better. Thank you so much, Hallie girl.
Yeah, whatever.
Now, Jet, your turn.
You wish. This computer doesn't even have a camera.
Wait,
what computer?
Hold on, no, you have a laptop. Fuck that. No, you're lying.
I'm not on my laptop. I'm on my desktop.
Okay, and that's what. And by the way, Christian, I wasn't lying earlier. No, that's the thing, Christian. I was lying earlier. I actually am on a laptop as well. That's why I couldn't show you. I would have went on camera for you. I would have done everything. I would have did a dick pic and everything.
Liar.
I would have.
You needed dick pics. That's what it's all about. You and I, we're close, but we would be much closer if dick pics were involved.
I wonder if that would ruin our friendship or not. Like, just. Well, no, it could make it really, really good. Like, just like, I don't know, just you tell me, like, hey, man, you know, like, just take a picture this way instead of that way. Oh, look a lot better, you know, the whole fucking thing.
I listen to right now. Nick is bullshitting because he constantly brings up because he had stayed the night in our hotel in fucking New York because everyone had got a little tipsy. And I go out to get a drink of Sprite. I just have my shirt off, Christian. I got pants on and everything. It's just my shirt off. And he has wrote this large-ass romantic novel about my body and how apparently the moonlight reflected and he can see the city streets go across my body. So, like, this is the first dude that, like, gets kind of creeped out with gay shit. So if y'all send dick pics, I'm mad dick and I feel jealous.
No, here's the thing, though, too. Like, New York is a very vibrant, pretty city. So, like, when we're, like, on the top floor of this huge, expensive fucking building, and then the entire city is, like, reflecting on your naked, silky fucking stomach, like, it's a little weird, dude. I don't want to see that shit. I'm trying to go to sleep. I'm trying to fucking chill. I got you walking around checking the refrigerator. It has no food in it. Why were you looking at the refrigerator?
Wishful thinking, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
I was thirsty and I needed a Sprite, and there was none.
Yeah, there was none.
He was just standing there right by the fridge, just like, I know ain't nothing to be in there.
I hope that I put like a half drunken one in there. And I'll let you know I was so thirsty and drunk at that point that I would have drank one that like some rando left in there.
It's just funny though. It's like I think he knew I was awake because I looked at him and he didn't give a fuck, and that was like really uncomfortable.
He was inviting you, bro. He was sitting there like making eye contact with you from afar, trying to get you to join in on the festivities, man.
He left his door open, dude. No, I'm just playing. That didn't happen. But yeah, anyways.
I didn't let the fuck on it. They were gonna know, man.
And Allie, how does it make you feel that you're just like one hallway away from that disgustingness? Was that something you want to be part of? Just be over there seeing Ganja in his naked.
Allie's seen me with my shirt off already.
You know,
no, I have not.
Yeah,
Allie really seems to me like the fucking person who is she's the adult tasked with hanging out with you motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, she's the Sabrina of this group.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, wait, no, isn't the new Sabrina kind of like fucked up?
The world is fucked up, but Sabrina's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's fine. She's doing her best she can as a teen girl. I mean, again, I don't know, but that's my point. That's why Allie is so special to this group because she legitimizes it. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of guys like, you know, navel gazing and comparing dick sizes and shit like that. So she legitimizes
each other.
Yeah.
I know Jet Jet compares her dick size to all of us all the time. So
I already told you it's bigger
than all of us. Let's just be completely clear about that. I don't doubt that at all.
I can't even tuck it sometimes.
Oh God, Jesus
Out
Christ.
loud.
But anyways, man, the thing is, usually we don't do any chat attack stuff. By the way, haven't you looked at the chat yet? I'm so sorry, but CJ Grayson says don't attack. Unconscious Professor Hulk is garbage. Yes, you're absolutely fucking right. We'll get into that in a little bit. Looking over here on Facebook, it's not working. Thank you, XSplit. You're so awesome. You're such a great broadcasting program. Go fuck yourself.
Hey, can I tell you this? It's at least working for the viewers.
That's true. That is good. I'll fix all that shit a bit because we're not even going to have it on this for too long on this particular screen because we're going into Flex and Chill, which is our review segment of the show. Christian, I don't think you've ever been involved in this stuff when it comes to like us doing reviews. You're usually just shooting the shit with us. Yeah, man. So we're gonna get right into it. One thing to start off with too, once we do this, and by the way, la la la, there it is, all red. Alan's not here to put his red fucking chonies on. I don't know why Alan likes to wear a different shirt for every single show that we do, every segment. So like, I'll be like, "Yo, guys, time to get to reviews," and then he just runs off screen. Like, I'll be right back.
Where's that motherfucker anyway? That's a really good question. Where's he hanging out right now?
He's sick, the poor guy. He's going.
Is
through
he?
it.
I don't
think
give
Yeah.
a fuck. I'm here. He needs to show up, man. You know, like I'm going to Toronto just to hang out with him. That's the dirty secret.
He caught the AIDS.
Aw, that's-
Shit, if it's that dire, like if it's the AIDS, okay, I'll retract my previous statement.
yeah, you can keep your ass home.
No, he got the bird flu.
That's fucking stupid, dude. But yeah, man.
Hey,
everyone-
that's our next pair of merch, man. I'm gonna start selling those shirts. Alan got the AIDS.
Alan got the AIDS.
Hashtag
Best
Alan got
selling
the
shirt in MCA history. Alan got the AIDS. I would buy 10 of those shirts, Conj, if you made it.
Jesus Christ, man. Really quick, I'm gonna have you guys shoot the shit for a second. I'm gonna fix this because I hate not seeing the chat. It's like one of those things that I don't know. Like if I was watching the show, I want people to read my shit, so when I'm trolling and pissing people off, they can see it and respond to it and all that good stuff. Likes my attention, goddammit. Let me see. It's loading up. It's loading up. Come on, chat. Yay!
Well, here's my question while you're loading that up, if you don't mind. So, do I get the pleasure of seeing any of you people for either Toronto or LA that's coming up, or are you gonna stay scarce and not let me meet you?
Maybe LA. I don't got a passport, so I can't go to Canada.
You can
Yeah,
get a
same here.
passport, you can expedite that shit. That's like a 2-week process only. That's what I just did. Look at it. Look at it. Literally. Keep the camera on me. Hold on.
Oh,
Passport. Look at this shit. I just
I was
got
gonna say,
Well, that's not enough. You also got to show your credit card
yo,
number
for a
and what's on the
second,
back.
Yeah, and your social security. Yep.
I thought he was gonna show the fucking form for a second. I was like, how's your social security number? Don't do it.
I know. And then Kurt's like, but yeah, get the camera on me. Come on. Yes.
Well,
Give
I
a
just
shit.
I would ask it like, y'all legal? You got social security cards and shit? Like, if not, don't answer that.
That's
because
so racist. How dare you ask me if I'm legal?
well, you're Puerto Rican, aren't you? Like, is that something you've been lying to me about this whole time?
I
or
am
no?
Puerto Rican, but I've never been to Puerto Rico, so I just use it to like look cool. You know, it's.
Well,
pretty
you're a
good.
citizen, man. That's the thing. That's like, you know how many times I've had to like, look, I grew up in Florida before I moved to Brooklyn, and it's like, you know how many times I had to tell fucking racist assholes like, go back to your own country. I'm like, motherfucker, my country is this country. You realize that, right? Like, I'm born with a social security card. You're fucking crazy. You're ignorant racists, and that's different because some racists are very smart. They just hate other people. The
Mhm.
people in Florida were just pieces of shit who didn't understand like, you know, geopolitical policy of Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. For me, when it comes to the Puerto Rican stuff, it's just like, you know, I know there's like pride with that stuff too, and I think it's something I should, you know more about. But it's just like, dude, I'm American. I live an American life. I don't do anything that's like I don't do anything that's from my culture. Is I play video games and I enjoy a good fucking bowl of cereal in the morning. Like,
I like video games in Puerto Rico too. What the fuck are you trying to say, Nick? I feel
He's
like
trying to say he is
to-
pleasantly colonized. He does not want to stir the pot.
you know,
Leave him alone.
until Avengers Endgame, literally, I didn't think anyone other than America had video games. Like, I didn't know that they have fucking Fortnite and goddamn Ragnarok Land, wherever the fuck they live at. So yeah, like, I mean, I'm learning new things every fucking day, especially this goddamn week.
You're evolving.
Yeah, not fast. Anyways, let me see. I'm gonna look at the chat one more time on Facebook and everything too. Nothing's really coming up, so hey, it is what it fucking is. Hopefully that there's nothing wrong and it's just no one's fucking watching this because Double Toast is doing their thing. Which, by the way, doubletoast.com, Sunday servers are doing spoiler talks, all that good stuff. So we're gonna get through this shit pretty quickly.
Well, also, what's in the box Saturday? Actually, bullshit. Thursdays at
Thursdays
7
now,
p.m.
yeah.
because we're moving the show. But yeah, come hang out with your boy. We talk TV and all that good stuff.
Absolutely, and then he argues with his co-host a lot too, which is very fun. Speaking of this too, on Thursday, what time are you guys gonna be on?
7 p.m. CST, 8 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, man. Are you not used to the CST part of it? Like, do you still go by your own time, or do you have the
because
Austin Texas?
thing like East Coast, like you have to. That's the weirdest thing about me about to move to LA is like in my mind, Eastern Coast is the standard for everything. In as much that like when you would watch TV shows and it's like 9 p.m. 8 Central. Like the
Yeah.
idea is that like time didn't exist if you were outside of the Eastern time zone.
Yeah.
So like now it's really creepy to me because everything double toasted is Central Time, and I have to just either add an hour or now that I'm about to move to LA, it's like take 2 hours away, and it's a whole fucking thing. So yeah, I'll learn it little by little. But yes, Thursday 7 p.m. Central Time. Come see what's in the box.
Sweet. Yeah, man. So, but anyways, and one of these days I gotta get on there too. That'd be fucking awesome.
Anytime, brother. We love you, man. Anytime you want to come on.
Yeah, but no, now it's time. I mean,
We talk
we're
about your love of Game of Thrones.
no.
Yeah, that might be a touchy subject, but everything else, come on. we
But
Okay,
love it.
Walking Dead.
Fuck you.
Also, maybe a little bit touchy, but yeah, you can still come on, brother, anytime.
No, one of these days I will. And like I said, I'd be down to talk about Game of Thrones too. I still gotta fight Coleman on some of this shit too, even with Sorry to Bother You. Have you seen that, by the way, too? I know I'm like getting off topic and shit, but Sorry to Bother You. Have you seen it?
Yeah, no, I loved it. But can I make an impassioned plea as to why I loved it? Because I know you commented on my shit immediately when I said something about it. Oh, here's the thing: I'm a comic book writer. I wrote this comic book called Here We Are Lost. Check it out. It's on littlefireburning.com. You can buy it there if you want to buy it. But magical realism is my favorite thing in the world, right? Magical realism as a concept is like these things that are beyond belief but are somehow seemed as normalized in this world. And that movie was like an American magical realism, and that's a big deal just because American magical realism doesn't exist. Magical realism exists in Latin American literature and in Japanese literature. Everything else is fucking bullshit. Okay?
I can make an argument that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas comes close to it.
Fear and Loathing, you said?
Yes.
Well, absolutely, but that's the point. That's Terry Gilliam, who is I guess he is American. He's not.
He's
British.
American.
Yeah, that's
You're still right. It's a low number of artists, but I know I can make a bet that Fear and Loathing counts as one of them as well.
Well, the thing about that, and not to derail the whole conversation, but Fear and Loathing, you're right, because these weird things are happening and it's deemed normal. That's a tenet of magical realism, right? So you'll have like cats talking to you and no one's like, what the fuck? A cat's talking. Kill that motherfucker, right? Like, no, it's always like, that's normal. Cats talk in this world. And so, like, I loved Sorry to Bother You because, one, it's this real tale about, like, the proletariat, right? Like, people working really hard to make profits for a fucking faceless billionaire amalgamation of a corporation.
Christian, whisper it to my ear slowly.
Right. I loved it, man. I mean, I'm really curious, and I know we got to talk about Endgame, but if you can derail this for 5 minutes, what didn't you like about Sorry to Bother You, Nick? Because you're always the one that I like. I'm so curious to feel how you feel about art. You know what I mean?
You're gonna drop that feeling after knowing him a little bit longer.
I'm gonna get some popcorn.
No, I will say really because I know that people don't really agree with me on this, so I'm not gonna torture whoever's watching, etc. The fact is though, it's one of those situations where this movie does not know when to just let certain things go. I feel like there's jokes there in this movie. I mean, the girl with the fucking earrings, these crazy, really like over exaggerated characters. There's an elevator scene, dude, that takes, I swear to God, like 3 fucking minutes just hitting buttons. Just beep, 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 shit like that. It was kind of weird. I also did not like the white voice thing. It was cool a couple of times, but the whole movie is based around the white voice.
Okay, hold on. I got to interject here because this is a big deal. And Allie, please jump in. Jet, please jump in because I assume you're brown. I don't know. Because I can't see your fucking face, Jet.
I'm eggshell.
The point is this. I have a father. My stepfather is a half black, half white man who was raised in West Virginia in the 60s. Okay.
Will Smith?
No, no, no. But the idea that to be I'm thinking about this now, thinking about my grandmother and my grandfather who were an interracial couple in the 60s. That was a big fucking deal, man. You have to realize how incredible that was to outsiders who were ignorant and fucking racist and didn't believe in the mixing of the races. And what I mean by that is my father is a businessman. He owns his own business. And it's I used to make fun of him because depending on who he was talking to on the phone, this guy would be talking jive, right? Shit, motherfucker, all that shit. Or he would be yes, sir, I agree, indubitably. The fucking quarterly reports. It's really weird. And that's a thing that brown people have to learn how to do. The idea of the white voice. And this is the thing. You're in Arizona. You're removed a little bit from the Spanish immigrant story. And I'm not talking shit about you at all. I'm just saying that you're a little bit removed of it. The idea of having to have white voices is a real fucking thing. I have had to deal with that myself. I went to school in a place called Durant High School. Look it up in Hillsborough County. This place was populated where if you did a bird's eye view, you would see the segregation from the courtyard. You know what I'm saying? This is a big fucking deal. And it's the idea of having to be other people to other groups of people is a real thing. So,
damn.
My dog agrees. They're yes, you have to be multiple people. But that's my point. So it's I'm sitting here just being don't hate on that aspect too much because that is a real portion of it, at least for me. Allie, Jet, I would love to hear how you feel about this. But sometimes you have to talk in a very proper, prim and proper sort of voice in order to make other people feel comfortable. Does that make sense?
I have to do that every time I do a phone interview or I go into a job. slick back my hair, basically cross my legs, hands together, like, oh yes, like yeah, it's really nice to meet you. Oh my god.
Well, it's a burden that we have to face in a way that other races don't. And I'm not whatever. I'm not better than anyone else. I really don't believe that. I don't want this to turn into like a race thing. Okay, but what I'm saying is that we have to be versed in how to speak to everybody. Because if we only learn how to speak to our own people, we're fucked. We have no opportunity. And I think that that's a big deal. And that's why I loved that movie so much, because it really accurately described how, like, being a black man, you talk on a fucking phone, you're hung up on immediately. Being a confident white man who wants to sell you something, somehow you get 30 more seconds of a conversation. And it sounds really minuscule and not important, but it really is important. And that's something I'm well versed in. And I'm sure Allie and Jed are both versed in, because you have to be in the world that we live in. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Like, and I had to do that too. Like, I mean, now I'm so used to doing this shit. Like, by the way, too, like, I've had to become the guy I am talking the way I do. But I used to be like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? And I just, I can't even, like, pronounce shit correctly half the time. Still, to this day, I still fucking struggle. I know Julian's in chat now, probably going to make fun of me when I fuck something up in a little bit because he's an asshole. But the thing is, though, it's like, they went so far with it. It was like, I understand the white voice thing, but then it was like, I mean, dude, especially like having Patton Oswalt and Steve Buscemi do these fucking voices. It was like, dude, that's so fucking annoying.
Well, I think it was
Especially
David Cross. I think it was David Cross who did the voice, not Patton Oswalt. Am I wrong?
well, there's three of them. There's three guys that are doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but
Either way,
that was the
I mean,
thing.
the larger point of it is just like that's a real mirror to the society we live in now. I always go back to and same thing with Miles. He'll never say this because he can't say the word nigga without getting fucking freaked out about it. But like, we're like Puerto Ricans, you're half African. I feel like I can say it for the context of a fucking film. But it's like the idea is like that scene where he's freestyling and he doesn't know how to freestyle.
Yeah, and ninja shit. Yeah, that was
Dude,
annoying.
I mean that's the thesis statement for the whole film, bro. Like, you have to make this shit palatable for white folks so they can feel comfortable within your racism. Like, it's fucked up. Anyway, it's a wonderful movie. We'll talk about it at length next time I see you. I'll make you watch it with me, and I'll just pause every 10 minutes to be like, yo, this is why this makes sense, and I'll do a dissertation.
I will say, here's the thing, and Ganja, I don't know if you noticed this too with Christian, but like, he is definitely the good version of Julian. Like, have you noticed? Like, he says the same thing that Julian said, except I don't want to choke the fuck out of you right now.
Look, I love Julian. I think Julian's extra as fuck, but I think he's got a lot of good points. He's just got to learn how to articulate it more. I see he's on my side. I see the chat.
Yeah, he
here.
loves you. No, he's loving the fuck out of you right now.
He's good people. I like Julian a whole bunch, but I don't want to take away from the point, because Julian's not going to like me when we talk about Endgame. So like, reserve that hate for now.
Exactly. And speaking of Endgame, I guess now it's time to finally fucking talk about it. And here's the thing: like, everyone, you've seen this movie. If you actually watch this movie and you care about this review, you basically already know what's going on after 20 plus movies building up to the lore and characters of, Marvel and the Avengers and all this shit. It's finally time, possibly one of the last times I think, that we're going to see most of these characters even get together and feud off. Especially with the big baddie, which is Thanos. Which I don't know if you actually like Thanos. And we had to talk a little bit about Infinity War leading up to this, because this is the second part. Christian, Thanos, did you like him from the last movie at all? You think he was alright?
Here's the thing: I really actively rooted against Infinity War. Like, I didn't like Infinity War at all, because I felt like my main problem with it was that it rolled back character development from Ragnarok, which I know you're not a fan of, Nick. I apologize. But also Guardians 2, which I go to bat for, because as a script, like, I'm a writer. I write a comic book. I try to write other shit. For me, as a script, the last 10 minutes of that movie have 7 individual character moments. Like, for me, it is a perfect script. Whether you feel about like, oh, it's too jokey, whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. So when I kind of come back to it, it's like I look at Infinity War being like, oh, there's a lot of problems with this, and then I watched Endgame and I'm like, okay, Infinity War was better. Like, because Infinity War, I mean, Endgame has a lot of fucking problems, man, and I don't want to like over expand on that, because I'm sure all of you have your own points of views, and I would love to jump in to talk about those.
We sure do.
Yeah, I mean, my larger point is this: like, is it a satisfying end? Sure, probably. I get mad that the MCU limped to the finish line. That's how I feel about it. Like, it definitely like limped to the finish line. Did I enjoy Captain America's ending? Sure. Did I like Sam taking over the mantle? By the way, spoiler alerts.
Oh, no, this is a whole spoiler talk. Yeah, we're spoiling
that out there. Yeah, before I start saying shit. But like, there are parts of it that I like. But I think the metaphor I used with you earlier, Nick, is like, imagine making a really great meal and all the individual flavors are wonderful, but when you take a bite of all of it together, it doesn't coalesce into anything that's tasty. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's literally how I feel about the whole end game of it all. It's just that like it had a lot of great disparate parts, but it never coalesced into something that I felt was emotional. And it made me sad because motherfuckers are crying next to me in the theaters, and I'm like, "You're stupid as fuck! Like, what are you doing?" So that's me. Anyway, I want to hear everyone else talk before I start to talk shit about this movie.
Yeah, because Allie, I'm gonna ask you. I mean, I know we talked about it before, and I think I already kind of know what you felt about it, but sometimes I get wrong. After a whole year of this movie being out, what do you think about Infinity War? Do you like Thanos? I mean, were you even hyped about this just as far as story, not because of the action or everything, but because of the story? Were you kind of hyped for Endgame?
I was so hyped for Endgame. Like, I really appreciated Infinity War because the freaking villain won. I am much more of a villain person when it comes to like, superhero movies or just stuff of like just movies overall. Like, I like the antagonist, and I find the antagonist a lot more interesting a lot of times.
You're coming from the Shakespeare point of view, where the villain needs to be a fully realized character. Otherwise, what's the point of the villain, right?
Right,
like,
and
you need to understand.
And he felt actually sympathetic. Like, not saying that what he did was right, but at the same time, like, I understood where he was coming from, and he felt really 100% in his mind that he was correct. And he had a very, like, we were talking about this earlier, and Trey was saying, like, he was just very rational and really, like, calculated. And it's not like there was any hard feelings or, like, personal vendettas against anything. It was just like, I feel like this is good. This is for the greater good of the galaxy that I'm doing this. And he gave his points and everything like that. And I was like, okay, I could see where he was coming from. And he felt like such an incredible threat, like just physical power, but also his the power that he obtains in all of his army. So it was just like such a big, huge, high stake. And to see that these superheroes, as much as they've been through so much, just could not defeat him, and he just won, was just like really. It was such a surprise in a good way, and I just love everyone's reaction to it.
If I may jump in, they could have defeated him in the first movie. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
If Captain Marvel was there, they
movie,
could have defeated him.
Well, if characters stopped, that's the problem. That's my cardinal sin with Infinity War, which is listen, characters stopped acting like themselves for the sake of advancing a plot for a shared universe movie. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I always go back to Guardians too, which listen, you can talk shit about being it's too jokey, but the whole point of that film is to finally get Peter out of, is that his name? Oh my God, Peter Quill? Is that his name?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fucked up. Sorry, so much vodka. But my point is this: that they finally got him out of being this infantile Arrested Development character, right? Where he understood that we are stronger together as a team. And then to roll that back for one scene where again, if anyone is more qualified to know how dangerous Thanos is, it's Quill, right? He spent years on a ship with Gamora hearing nothing but the horror stories. And because he's angry in the moment, he's like, I'm going to punch Thanos in the face while he's sleeping. That does nothing to him, by the way. And it ruins the chance of getting the gauntlet off of him. And that's when characters stop acting like themselves in order to progress the plot of a film. This is why I get so shitty about Infinity War. As a spectacle, is it a good movie? Sure. I was entertained the whole time. But this is the problem with sharing a universe, is because all the individual growth that you get in one of the side movies doesn't matter because we have to keep the main fucking event movie going. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing, going into this is you saying that right there with whole, Quill punching him while he's fucking asleep. And they just discussed too that you're not going to do any damage to him. We're throwing missiles at this fucking guy. He's not doing anything. And it's this has to happen for this to happen, for this to happen. So we can lead to they're not going to win in this movie, and you need to watch the next one. And it's that's what Endgame was the entire time. That was a big issue I had with this. But, before we even start talking shit and going crazy, which, by the way, I can hear myself, I think it's probably me being in this other window. So, Christian, even though I told you to look at this particular window, I'm going to close it. I'm sorry. But it's all good. I'm going to get the strengths out of the way, the obvious strengths. Firstly, we just discussed that, yes, the movie looks great. The movie is catered to all the Marvel fans with all the nods to the other films. The side characters are cool. The villain, Thanos, we just discussed how he was effective in Infinity War, so I guess it kind of, moves over to Endgame. And then I feel it did have a nice, fair level. If you want to have your comedy, you got it. If you want to have your drama, your action, you got all that shit in here. But then that starts one huge issue of just, Jesus Christ, it's trying to do too much stuff. for 3 hours, dude. It's like, does this movie even have an identity? Like, it's so hard
Can I
to
also
pay
just
attention.
speak as a New Yorker really quick, like being from Brooklyn, like sorry the mic moved. You take half the population of Brooklyn out and you still have 4 million people. Like they
Yeah.
made it look like it was a post-apocalyptic wasteland where there was 10 people in the whole New York metropolitan area. And I'm sitting here being like, what the fuck are you talking about? If anything, like New York is thriving because there's not 4 extra million people hanging out. You
Mhm.
know, like it just fucking bothered the shit out of me, man. And like again, like this movie Infinity War I thought was bad because I thought like, okay, they didn't do anything in terms of character moments, right? Like Captain
Mhm.
America is a secondary character. He barely exists when he had been, in my opinion, and please tell me if I'm wrong, like I'm okay being challenged, but like he was the heart and soul of the MCU up until that point. Winter Soldier, I think, is probably the top of the mountain for me when it comes to the films that have been made in the MCU. And then
Mhm.
we get to this film and it's just like everything is a facsimile of what it once was, you know? Like there isn't even Tony Stark, man. It's just like he died and I didn't give a shit. Like and I should have, but I
Yeah.
The
didn't,
problem,
man.
the problem with that is like they faked his death out so many times where it's just like who cares? Like you did it in Infinity War, you did it twice here.
Well, yeah, no, to speak to your point, had he died in Infinity War when he got stabbed, that's a blow, bro. But like I'm totally with you, but they faked it and it didn't matter. And it didn't matter in Iron Man 3 and it didn't matter in Iron Man 2 and there was never any stakes of real repercussions. Am I right?
Wait, hold on. What happened? Because my shit's fucking.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 3 different things in this chat's fucking up. What'd you say?
Well, no, I'm just saying about the Tony Stark thing, where it's like they had faked it out so much that you had lost any weird comparison. And I promise, Nick, I'm not coming at you, bro. I'm sorry. But
Oh, no,
like,
you're good.
a Glenn fake out death from Walking Dead. Where you're
Oh,
just
no,
like,
yeah, because it took the weight off. And it's like with Tony Stark, because this is not the only time. People keep bringing up Infinity War, like what Jet said earlier. But in this movie, and I don't know if you felt this way too, Christian, but like in this movie, at the beginning, they kind of do a little fake out too of like, man, look how fucking weak he is, where he takes his fucking chest plate off and he falls down. Oh, God, poor Tony. And I'm like, you are making him so sympathetic and trying your best to make me feel bad for him. That's like, dude, there's no weight on this. Like, I don't give a fuck what happens now.
well, it's also one of the things that we have preconceived notions, right? Where we figure like, okay, who were the original fucking Avengers? Half of them can't come out of this, right? Like that, just from storytelling perspective. Like, you know, here's the thing: like audiences are savvy. Like whether you think you are or not, you have seen so much story, so much television, so many films that you understand how story works inherently. And so we know there's no way that half of them come out of this. And so when it comes to Iron Man, it's just like, well, we knew he was on the chopping block. What can they do to make his death mean something? And for me, it didn't mean anything. Like, and and maybe I'm fucked up. Like, let me just start with this caveat, people who are about to come after me. Maybe I need therapy. Like maybe I'm a fucked up person who can no longer appreciate the childhood wonders of things. That's very possible. I'm 29, like I'm old as fuck now. Like, you know, it's possible that I watched it and I just didn't feel affected in the same way that maybe a 25-year-old version of myself would have.
Oh no, I'm 25 and I'll let you right now. That shit did not excite me as much as it should have.
Thank you. I needed your 25-year-old youthful
Perspective of
of
what
the events. Yeah, absolutely. Because for me, it's like it happened, and I'm like, well, it's sad in the sense that like this is someone I spent 10 years with, but it's certainly not sad within the film. You know what I mean? Like one of the most effective films or scenes in the film was that early scene where they're doing like a group therapy. And I believe it's Jeff Russo, one of the Russo brothers. It might be the other one. I don't fucking know.
Joe, I
Yeah,
think.
Joe. God damn it, Joe! You're such a better actor than Jeff. Then, but Joe Russo gives a whole performance about like learning to move on. I'm a TV guy, as you know. That's why I host What's in the Box on Double Toasted. But like The Leftovers, an HBO show, it's one of my favorite shows ever. I love it. It's 3 seasons only. It's very sweet and concise. But it's weird that it shares a thematic connection with the Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. The idea that the sudden departure of people that you really care about. And it's just like they made it seem like such a cataclysmic thing that half the world would be gone. But I didn't feel it at any point from the real characters. You know what I'm saying?
And
Like,
they went for like the weird, like the generic default thing of like, hey, so people were lost, so it's empty. It's like, wait, hold on. Like, you know,
Right.
you live in this fucking world. Like, you know that would not happen. Half, especially of New York, like you said, really a whole stadium's gone. You fucking kidding me? So just, I guess people who go to see baseball games are the most unluckiest people ever. That they're the ones that are randomly chosen to be fucking
Well,
dead.
not only that, if you even like within the context of the story itself, they talk about like, oh, some governments are fair and better than others, and some have completely disappeared. They don't touch into like how that's destroyed the world. From what it looks like, it seems like everything kind of just continued regular old hunky dory. It's just there's more parked cars and no one to tell them everywhere. So there's just that's the problem.
Yeah.
There's no real difference into how the
There's
world
no
is.
one fucking hauling the cars to the Brooklyn Navy Yard like I'm used to.
Yeah, like apparently Thanos had like a real kind of personal vendetta when it came to tow companies. But when it comes to like how people viewed the world around them, it felt more like a depression, like you lost a family member or a cousin, rather than somebody that the world is gone. Like people have lost their sense of what society is. They're not grounded anymore. It's
Right.
just like a regular AA million. There's nothing feels big and explosive as much as that ending gave it Infinity War Part 1. There's no calm little blowback that happens. It's just, it starts off like, hey, this is kind of what the hero's been doing for 5 years now, and heist movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, let's be fair. I want to be fair about this because it's not like I hated everything about this movie. In fact, I think I maybe I didn't because I'm drunk and I already don't remember 10 minutes ago, so that's fucked up. But like maybe I want to point out again that there were plenty of components about this film that I actually really enjoyed. It's just that it didn't coalesce into something. The idea, like, and I brought up the leftovers earlier, what's amazing about 2% of the population going away is that it's just enough to affect every single person. Right? Whether you lost someone personally or not, you know someone who lost somebody. And I felt like I never felt that connective tissue between a collective loss, a collective survivor's guilt, if you will, right? Like the idea of like, why am I still here, but those people aren't? And I think that like maybe we briefly saw it with Tony because of how he felt about Peter. But we didn't see that in a grand scheme, and beyond that, like in terms of scale, like when they end up coming back, and I'm going to stop now because I feel like we should go sequentially about this film. It's just like even when they end up coming back, there's not a moment where we actually reflect on like what was it like for you? Like you fucking turned into dust, but you said that you didn't see anything. It was like a nap, and then you were awake. Like, what does that mean? What is that world for you to be erased from existence? Like that is so interesting to me, and they didn't even broach it. So, at this point, I'll turn it you, Nick, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the biggest thing about this too is just I feel like most of the issues with this encompasses the one thing that encompasses everything wrong with this is just its length. You know what I mean? Like the first 2 hours builds a climax that already had the groundwork set in place for it the past 20 movies. So like this climax didn't really need the build up. Like we have these conversations where people just kind of like, I know like even with Game of Thrones too, and even Walking Dead sometimes people will talk about like, oh well we need to build this up. The best parts of the show and this movie or whatever is people discussing, having a roundtable discussion about these situations because they take it seriously. I'm sorry, I know you're trying. I will never ever fucking take a man in a cape seriously. So it's like, let's have some fun. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
This is fucking silly. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like 3 hours was way too long for this. This movie should have been an hour and 45 minutes for what we got and the questions that we still have. And Jed, I'm going to ask you really quick, like, do you feel like a big part of this issue is the 3 hour, like, length of the movie? Or do you think maybe you could have still done this long and still did all that shit, just be more entertaining?
This movie definitely did not need to be like 3 hours. Like, if you're gonna do 3 hours, have the last fight scene be about an hour, not just 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And also to go back on something, the whole like thing with Steve and like support group.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how he used his whole thing with Peggy once again, like everyone else dying and stuff like that. But his whole thing was still with Peggy, which he should have got over in like Captain America 2, which is so irritating. Like. This, like, you've only known like this woman for like maybe 3 months, and you've known everyone else who disappeared like maybe like for 2 years before they disappeared for 5 years, but you're still harping on this dead woman who like 12 years ago disappeared. It's so
I don't want to
irritating.
harp on that so much because, like, look, man, I don't know if you've ever been like head over heels obsessive in love with someone, but like that's not
to that extent.
that's not the issue I have with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about time. It's not about any of that stuff because sometimes I think you're stuck in a purely innocent world, right? Like where love wasn't corrupted by fucking or any other thing that happens when you're an adult. Like sometimes love is a purely adolescent thing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't want to hate on that so much, but I do hate on it in general because it feels like it doesn't amount to anything. like when we get to the end of this movie where like the big not even a twist, just the big decision that Captain America makes is to not to return to time when he's supposed to. I want you to really think about the implications of that decision, because what it really amounts to is just like
making me angry.
Nazis hanging out in America. Like, there's a lot of fucked up shit that happens because as a result of that. But that's not my biggest one. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's a lot of things to be upset about this film, and that's not one that I'm personally affected by. But I would love to be wrong. I mean, Ganj, Ali, do you have any say in this situation?
Well, the one thing I gotta say is I'm just picturing Captain America going back and becoming a communist just for hanging out AFC. But go ahead, Allie.
Yeah, I was about to say I feel the same way with Jet, because it's more so like we were talking about this before we started the show, that basically that whole part of that meeting, like at AA, whatever the heck type of meeting that was, that that basically Captain America was talking about, hey, this is tough. We're in a tough situation. I lost someone that I really loved and, found the love of my life. And like, I woke up 75 years later, and, you got to move on, and you got to keep going. You got to keep living. And it's like, he really harped on the fact that you can't change the past. And that he was also talking to Tony, saying how Tony was the one that was selfish for not trying to help them go back in time and get these stones, that all of a sudden Captain America is being selfish by going back in time to be with Peggy.
Like, you selfish son of a bitch.
Like, I thought that made him such a stronger character, though, because it's like, wow, like, can you imagine just, like, going through that and finding someone you really, like, want to be with for the rest of your life, and then, like, you can't be with them, and they die, or they're, like, almost dead. Whoa. And stuff, and you have to go through all this stuff, like, and you just don't have a normal life and stuff, like, all of the stuff he had to sacrifice, to help for the greater good and to help other people. I just felt that goes so much back on, like, his character growth, when like, oh, I'm gonna give all that up to be with my girlfriend.
Also, think about this for half a second, which is like, Peggy Carter had fucking kids, like, she had life without him.
A whole niece that Steve made out with as well.
Well, not even going to the existential stuff of like, yo, man, I'm just cock blocking you from the future. It's like, if you think about it, the big message of this was to move on and trying to fix what you can fix within the things you can achieve within your own time zone, quote unquote, your life, is what the big message of the film was. Move on from what you can't change to change what you can change. With that last ending bit of Captain America just going back and saying, fuck it.
Right. I think at this point it's really important that we kind of talk about the thematic structure of the film, which is Act 1 is we're all sad because this thing happened. Act 2 is like, we're gonna do something about this, and Act 3 is the big fight in order to achieve something. Sure, whatever. Yeah. Right. But the idea of time travel, which is like, listen, I love that in the film they talk shit about time travel as a concept. I believe Professor Banner, as you said, Professor Hulk, he even says like, yo, it's time travel. Either it's all a joke or it's all serious. That's cute, except for the fact that they don't even rely on their own internal logic of time travel. And this is where the entire movie kind of falls apart for me. It's not to say, like, again, listen, people, before you write letters, I hear the fucking keyboards typing. Like, this movie has a couple satisfying character beats. That was my main issue with Infinity War. It was like, man, no one's acting like themselves in order to advance a plot. There are no character moments here. In Guardians 2 is an imperfect film, but that last 20 minutes, I dare you to try to talk shit to me about those last 20 minutes, because they are perfectly realized character moments. Okay. So it's like with this film, it's like, I didn't feel that at all at any point. That's the large problem that I have with it. But again, I want to be wrong. Like, I want people to tell me like, Christian, you're a piece of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. And I haven't heard anything yet, because everyone who's saying that it's amazing. And again, Nick, you heard me earlier. I'm sorry to repeat myself, but like, dude, in the theater that I was in, people were like, this was life-changing. This was a miracle that we received. I'm like, miracles are reserved for actual fucking miracles, not for adventure films that are pieces of shit.
And this didn't really do anything different either. It's fucking time travel. That's been done before. What was so life-changing about it?
Yeah, and I mean, and the fact is too is like, and as you said, Christian, when the movie starts kind of falling apart, it's like this movie retcons, and then contradicts the retcons. Like when you fuck with time, I understand things, the paradox type situation. I understand that things get kind of crazy. Terminator does this. Mortal Kombat 11 fucking does this. Like, I get it. I mean, this happens. But when you watch this movie, they literally have a scene where they discuss like how many finite times or attempts they have with Ant-Man's whatever the fuck serum. I don't even know what the fuck that shit is. Like the
Yeah.
The quantum stuff. Like they're using that the consumables or to go back in time, and they're like, we only
Which,
have
by
this
the
many
way,
times.
can I just talk shit about for a second? I'm not a fucking scientist at all, but I consider myself an autodidact, and so I try to learn everything about everything that I possibly can. And so while I can't explain to you the math behind Schrodinger's cat, I can explain the concept of Schrodinger's cat. This movie makes no fucking sense, Nick. It makes no sense. Like, the quantum realm isn't a fucking like avenue to time travel. Like this whole movie just pissed me the fuck off.
And he creates like 4 questions every time they do something and answer something. They ask 4 more. Like for instance, like they go back in time, and then the Hulk ends up getting the fucking like the time stone. I'm like, okay, well now that you have the time stone and you're just able to grab people from the fucking past and bring them to reality, okay, well grab the rest of the Avengers, or.
Right.
How about just fucking instead of people saying, oh, we can only go back in time like one more time because we had this fucking serum from Ant-Man. You had the time stone. Don't use the serum. Just go back. It's a time stone.
Right. So many plot holes in this fucking movie that no one wants to talk about. No, I'm completely with you, man. I think that's the large problem with it is just that they didn't play fast and loose with their own rules. Here's the thing: Back to the Future, they mention it in the film.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense, but Back to the Future sticks to its own internal logic, right? If you fuck with something in the past, it affects you in the future. They didn't even stick to that in this movie. And I think, look, before we
my favorite scene that gives an example to that, to answer your point, is when Thor basically jacks the hammer from past Thor. And if y'all remember from that movie scene, that exact scene where the Queen's walking away, there's a huge battle scene that occurs right in that movie.
Right.
Apparently that door is fucked.
Let's do this. Let's do this because I do think, again, like we're being nitpicky little bitches about it. I'll speak for myself. I'm being a nitpicky little bitch about it. But I would say that, again, there are things I liked about the film. So before we go into a full act 1, act 2, act 3 assault on what we didn't like about the film, I kind of want to go with everybody and kind of see what you liked about it. And I'll start. Again, I like the idea of Sam donning the Captain America thing because I'm a comic book reader. That's how I learned how to read as a child. I love that idea. I think that's beautiful. Sam should be the next Captain America. That's great. Even in concept, Captain America growing old and having a life is pretty, except for when you think about what it means for half a second, then it gets really fucked up. But I guess what I want to ask all of you, I want to ask Allie, I want to ask Jet, Ganja, Nick, all of you. What are things about this movie that you did enjoy before it kind of went off the rails for you?
So I'll say this is that I really enjoyed the first part where Ant-Man is brought back to, the reality, and it's been 5 years and it's only been 5 hours for him. And that part where he there's just this pure look of fear in his face. It's wow, oh my God, everyone's gone. And he's just frantically looking for his daughter's name and his friend's name on these stones, trying to find these people and to see his name there and to find that his daughter has aged 5 years and she's now a teenager. That part I was wow, that really kind of stuck with me. And I feel like Ant-Man overall, I'd say he's the MVP of this movie. Okay. Yeah. I thought that he was I just love that he was the only one who came into it. First of all, we were talking about this too, that who had an idea of oh, hey, even though that's where it went off the rails, but at least he had tried to think of an idea to try to fix this, where everyone else was just kind of given up and kind of moved on and just accepted their reality. But also I just think that I just liked his character overall, and that he was just a lighthearted, enough lightheartedness, but still serious at the same time. He was just a nice balance.
That's America's ass, right?
That's America's ass. Man, come on now. That was a funny line, okay?
No, and again, let's give credit where credit's due. I really loved Paul Rudd in this film. I actually really loved Hemsworth in this movie, man, because think about this for a second. I thought Nick, again, I'm sorry I'm repeating myself because we talked about it already. But think about who that character was for the first 2 films. And even though you didn't like Ragnarok, Nick, you have to admit that Hemsworth seemed freer. He seemed liberated in what he could do with that character. The idea that he is he's basically the big fucking Lebowski in this movie. He's just a stoner slacker who's just there. I kind of loved it. I love the ability to be that comedically effective. And it also sets up what may very well be Guardians 3, right? Where Thor may be a part of that crew. That is exciting because we believe in James Gunn. At least I do. I adore the first 2 Guardians films. But again, so there are things to like about this film. I don't know who fucking made that sound, but I'm Specifically the last 20 minutes of Guardians too. But my point is this, that like, there are things to like about the film. I'm not saying it's a shit show. I'm not saying it's Justice League. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's Batman versus Superman. I apologize if any of you like that, but those movies are fucking garbage. Like, but like it has.
Wait, you didn't like Justice League?
All right, listen. Here's my feelings about Justice League.
Okay, no. Let's not stay on Avengers. It's a whole other black hole.
It'll be a 5-minute detour tops, I promise.
Bro, that's not going to be a 5-minute detour with you.
You said that 6 detours. When we gonna get this stuff
No,
going,
man.
bro?
I don't believe it.
Give me 10 seconds only, I will detour.
I got the munchies. We detoured 7 times already. Christine.
10, 9, 8, 7. Okay, cool. Listen, for 5 seconds in that movie, Superman, as I know him as a person who learned how to read from comic books, who to adore him, he showed up in Justice League in a way he didn't show up in Batman versus Superman, didn't show up in Man of Steel. There are parts of Justice League to really like, but the part that I want to hearken on is that the third act of Avengers Endgame, tell me what the fuck is different between the third act of Avengers Endgame and the third act of Justice League. The answer is nothing. They are both like soulless, flat, very
Okay.
third acts.
I gotta disagree with you there. All right.
Girl, I want to hear it. Let's hear
Okay,
it.
so Endgame, I felt like there was definitely more of an emotional impact with that fight sequence than with Justice League, because they're just fighting a bunch of these monsters and stuff, and this faceless villain that no one freaking cares about, versus, first of all, Thanos. Yes, it's a different Thanos in this version, and so I was talking to Trey about how, like, people were coming at Thanos like Wanda or Scarlet Witch is like, you took everything from me, and Thanos is like, who are you? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I want to give some props to that actress, by the way, Elizabeth Olsen. That's her name, because again, her powers are just like without CGI. It's just her being like weird face with hands. Like it's hard to be Scarlet Witch. I want to give her some credit.
But the thing is, though, like when it comes to situations like that too, is like this is where I almost agree with you somewhat, Christian, on the Justice League part of it, because in Justice League, and I didn't hate it as much as everybody else does. It's a piece of shit movie, but it is what it is. The thing is, though, it's like in those final scenes, everyone who's fighting Steppenwolf or whatever the fuck his Shinnok look-like name is,
just call him Steven. He isn't allowed to be called Steppenwolf.
But the thing is, though, when they're fucking like fighting and whatnot, it's like at least like he has affected these particular people. There's no like time travel. There's no like realms, dimensions. Like he directly affected these people.
What did he affect these people with? All he's doing was looking for these.
For one, he fucked up the entire planet of La Mascara, whatever the fuck that piece of shit Wonder Woman
He didn't mess up the planet. First of all, it's not a planet because it's still on Earth. But second of all, he really didn't do
this
anything.
comic book shit. I can't fucking take shit seriously.
Thank you,
Harley. Thank you, Harley. You bark at us.
Nah, he just killed a little bit of the Amazonians, but that's it. It's not like he destroyed the whole entire Themyscira. Thanos, on the other hand, he did wipe out half of the freaking galaxy. And sure, it's not this Thanos that they're fighting, which again, actually, I will say to that point that it yes, definitely that lowered the impact of the emotional resonance. But it was just really cool to see, first of all, these characters coming back, because at this point, Captain America was about to fight this whole entire army, Thanos' army, all by himself. And then you see at the end, Black Panther's coming up. Oh, here comes Spider-Man. Here comes Guardians of the Galaxy. Here comes freaking everyone.
Well, that was another thing that pissed me off, if I'm being honest, Allie. I mean, at this point, I feel like we're doing a shitty job of being what's the word I'm looking for? Sequential. I feel like we're just talking about shit. So first act is like, we're sad because everyone's gone. Second act is like, let's go back in time to fix things. And third act is like, all right, now we're fighting to fix things, right? That's in a layman, in a nutshell, in a very inarticulate way. That is what Avengers Endgame is, right?
And the weird thing about that's frustrating is it's almost like, because the reason why I think this is so non-sequential is because of the fact that it's this movie is not sequential. I mean, this movie just there's a part where they go from 2014 to 2010 to 1700, whatever the fuck they were at. I don't know where the fuck Captain America was. Back to the future, to the present, to the past again. Oh my god! What the fuck are you doing? It was it was ridiculous, and it's that's
the whole thing. We were just talking about what we liked about the film, and I was saying that battle was something visually that I loved, and I wish that was longer, because that really did remind me first off of Civil War.
But hold on, Ellie, not to cut you
Hold
off.
up! Hey, you cut me up the whole time, man! Julian over here in the chat explaining to me that my dog is talking more than I am, and I'm trying to talk here. Hold up, man.
Sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I am asking because from a visual standpoint, like it seems as CGI heavy as Justice League's third act. Like the thing about like all these Marvel movies is that you can clearly identify who people are and what the stakes are of their fights. And I'm not trying to be a contrarian or an asshole at all. I'm not. I just want to ask you. And again, vodka. It's horrible. But it's the idea that like I look at that last act and I'm like, what is the difference between this and Justice League from a purely aesthetic standpoint?
Oh, there's no difference. It every single superhero movie leads up to a final battle scene with the villain and like a bunch of heroes. It's literally every single Marvel movie. It's every single DC movie. It's a CGI fest. There's no difference. The only difference is in if you have characters in a certain scene that you're invested in, and in Avengers, you're definitely much more invested in. So I would have liked to have seen that scene a little bit longer. That's all I'm saying is that like you're not as invested in Justice League because they just got together. They ain't got no freaking history together. They just met. But like Avengers, these people have been together for years, or like you've been through a lot more together with these characters, with their own movies and then coming together. So it's like when you see all of them for the first time all together in one scene, which most of them in the last movie were like separated at like different worlds and whatever. So it's like to see them all together fighting was something that was really awesome. Especially like yeah.
Can I ask you very quickly? When we go back, here's the problem with the second act of this film is I thought like, oh shit, we're gonna Back to the Future 2 this bitch. Like we're gonna go through all the greatest hits of the Marvel universe and make it funny or something, right? Like, yeah. but when I get to that second act, I'm just wondering like how much of that actually is emotionally effective for you, because I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is going to be where some really inspired shit happens. And instead it kind of doesn't. They kind of forget their own internal logic about what time travel means. And so like, let me turn this over to you and Ganj and Jet and Nick and everyone who else.
I'll let you right now. Nick and Jet are gone right now.
I'm sorry. Like I'm fucked up. So I'm going to go.
Oh, they're fucked up now too. They can go in their ass off.
Allie and Christian. That was
no, I adore Allie. I think she's like the fucking best here. No offense to the three of you, but she's the one who's giving me some shit. I love it. But I guess what I'm asking is just like, like there are emotional stakes because we've spent 10 years with them. Does it make you appreciate the Joss Whedon Avengers anymore? Because when I was watching this movie, I went back and being like, you know what? Fucking Joss Whedon kind of killed it with that first Avengers movie, man. Like everything wasn't so convoluted. Not everything was so nuanced. It was just like, look, white hat, black hat, right? Like it got reduced to fucking Western terms where like white hat means good, but black hat means bad. And like, I loved that.
Well, the black hat got to be bad.
Say that again?
Why did black hat got me bad?
Well, in the parlance of fucking bullshit racist westerns, which are clearly racist. But my point is this, that like the idea of like, it was simple. There was a dichotomy, right? Even if it wasn't black. Let's say it's white hat and gray hat. You still understood that one represented good, one represented bad, right? Exactly. And it's like, I watched this and I'd never felt that, but it made me have a deeper and fonder appreciation for the OG Avengers, even Age of Ultron, which is a fucking mess. But I felt like it's less of a mess than these last two Avenger films have been.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, yeah,
I beat my ass too.
No, like I've watched the first Avengers probably 50 million times because I loved it so much to the point where I watched it out of exhaustion, and now I don't necessarily love it as much as I do. But I see where you're coming from. That like it's definitely much more of a straightforward plot. So there's not a lot of like complexities and layers going on. But like sometimes you just want to watch something that's like, okay, you got the good guys, you got the bad guys, and they're trying to save the world. There you go. And they're coming together to do that. But Avengers, Infinity Wars, and Endgame, yeah, there's like so much more like stories going on at once, and you've got like much more of like these villains, but not really necessarily villain, but kind of a villain. And like I get it. It's so much more to take in, and it's just so much more of like. It's too much going on. It's like you can't wrap up everything. Like they thought they could explain everything and put it all like tightly knit into like a nice little like present for you at Endgame, but they didn't. They just created much more of like plot holes that we'll never probably get the answer to, or we'll never get a true ending to or conclusion for, because they tried to do too much. They thought they could do everything, and I think that they were just a little bit too confident in themselves with all these other movies, especially like the Russo brothers, where they've had like, you know, they had The Winter Soldier and they had Civil War that they did an amazing job with. And they're like, hey, you know,
they got diminishing returns with each movie. I mean, I think Winter Soldier is a perfect film. It's wonderful. Civil War has some problems, but the emotional beats are there.
Yeah.
Each movie they did kind of like started to remove them further from what I loved about what they had done previously. You know what I'm saying? But the point is this, like, listen, again, and I don't want to be shitty, and I think everyone here, regardless of how you feel about the larger Marvel universe, is like, let's understand, this was a titanic undertaking. You know, in the same way, I know you're not a Game of Thrones guy, Nick, but the idea of like these people had source material for the first 4 seasons and then they didn't have a safety net. And to deliver this epic scale is a really difficult thing to do. I don't want to take that away from the Russo brothers. I think they did the best they could.
Yeah, it was going to be hard to pull this off. I mean, I think a lot of people too are still like, I just can't believe I'm seeing this shit on fucking screen. Like, just I did not think that you guys are going to be able to do this shit. You know what I mean?
Well, it's Ultron, where like people were talking shit about it. I'm like, you jaded motherfuckers. Like, do you realize that we're like 2 years away from when we got the Avengers on the screen to begin with? Like, that's such a big deal, you know?
Yeah, I get that, but even that, a certain extent, we've been with this trend for, 10 years now? We see the Justice League, their movies, their half-assed attempt trying to pull off the same type of magic. People, it's not the same kind of, like, I felt like with the first Avengers, there was this magic and there was a sense of, oh, they pulled it off. This is the first phase. And with the second one, my best example, I gave it earlier, this really felt a lot to me like Mass Effect 3 early on, if y'all haven't played that game. The game in the first half of it, before it gets to the shitty ending that it's notorious for, it has a lot of final cutoffs with characters, planet developments, characters that you've been in, character developments that you've been seeing develop since the first game, or certain planets you came in contact with certain creatures or side characters. And everyone kind of had these wrapped up stories. And I kind of expected this with the Marvel Universe, especially with this one, where it's going to be a new phase now. They're going to have new heroes take over the mantle of the old one, and it's going to be trying to pretty much start over again and continue the story and bring more heroes in and continue the legacy. I just don't see how they're going to do it because they didn't really pull off that final gravitas ending. The fight scenes were great, and as a superhero movie, I think it's entertaining. That's why I'm not going to, when I get to my rental, it's not going to be harsh, because I'm mostly talking about my criticisms, because if I talk about the praise, everybody on the internet is talking about the same praise as I am. Like, how more depth can I go into for the big combat scene? Everyone saw it. It was fucking great. I got to see my I know Alan hates it, but my Marvel Ultimate Alliance fantasy of seeing Iron Man team with Thor and use a double power move on somebody. That was fucking great. But, you know, where you do a review, you talk more about the story, the overarching, and where the trend's going, and where the movie looks like it's going to be headed. And I felt like all that stuff was pretty weak, whereas the spectacle was really well done. If you went there for spectacle, you enjoyed this film. If you went there for something deeper or a masterpiece film or a great gravitas story, kind of like the first Avengers tried to do and other superhero films like Dark Knight have done in the past, you're not really going to get it with this one.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing too, is like, and I know that I'm harping a lot on the time, as not like time isn't like the time storyline, but just like how the length of the movie, because like being positive, I thought all the jokes were pretty good. I thought most of the drama stuff worked, but it's just like the way they were padded within a movie and always so like close to something else that was a completely different genre. I mean, you got very dramatic moments followed by within seconds of silly slapstick comedy and dabs. You got fucking humor and moments of suspense. You got actual comedy interrupted by dramatic dialogue that takes you out the fucking scene. Like, everything, it's like, I don't, by the way, too, I don't know how many times I can be told how dire a situation is before I'm just like, get the fuck over it. You know what I mean? Like, every single, like, fucking 15 minutes, someone's like, this is really sad. This is really bad. It's like, yeah, I got that last movie. And I got that this movie. Like, stop. I get it like, now. I don't care.
I want to talk about how jokes ruined, like, a certain character in this movie. And that one technically being Thor. With him, like, he...
This is interesting, because I think we might disagree here a little bit, Allie, but let's hear it. How's
Jet?
I'm so sorry.
Jeez!
You guys are jealous.
I'm going to start raising my voice.
But I am on Jet's side, so...
Yeah, so technically, like...
Again, you fuckers are gelatin to me. I can't tell who anyone is right now. But go on.
Oh, anyway. The thing is, like, the jokes actually ruined Thor's character in this one because, he's dealing with depression, all this. He's, like, a shut-in all this and gruesome weight. And every time, like, he gets a certain, like, point in which he's talking to a character about what he's been going through, it's just like, oh, like, are you wearing sweatpants? Oh, like, you're just feeling this way because you want some more cheese whiz. Just like, yeah, like, I thought this
That's my
moment was.
issue with Avengers Infinity War, which is like, we just came off the genocide of the fucking Asgardians, and let's make a joke because we can. Like, fuck that, dude. Like, that fucking bothered me so much. And so in this film, at least it seems like an honest representation about how people deal with trauma. People either deal with it by getting super fucking depressed or by making it not an issue at all. He is someone who is clearly affected and encumbered by this tragedy, but he will not admit that, to the point where he's just gaining a bunch of weight. And I agree with you that the sight gag of Thor is bullshit. Right? Like, it seems disingenuous. But the actual core of what that means is not disingenuous. I think that's how people deal with trauma sometimes. And beyond that, I would also say, and I know I said this earlier, I apologize, but like, Thor in the first two films is like a, sorry to rhyme, he's a bore, right? Like, he sucks. Like, he's not an interesting character to me at all. But Thor Ragnarok, Thor becomes this different, more nuanced person, where even though he's more comedic, because he's more comedic, the sadness that comes through is more sad than it was in the first two films. And so, like, he's basically, like, again, he's the Big Lebowski. He's Andrew Garfield in Under the Silver Lake, if any of you have seen that. Like, he's a slacker, and he is not really to be taken seriously, even though his emotions are 100% to be taken seriously. So I actually like that. I'm a little surprised you didn't like both of you.
No, like, I was fine with him, like, the gaining weight thing. I think they they should have did that better. Like, I did him wrong with how they did that. But it's more like the jokes at his expense that actually, like, got me, like, yeah, he's talking with his mom and stuff like that, or he's talking of, like, to the other, like, Avengers and stuff like that, and, like, he's really feeling some things, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, well, you're just feeling that way because you're fat joke here. You're just like, dang, like.
So you're saying the auxiliary characters fucked up the arc for Thor because they kept making it too.
Right, yeah, like I agree with you, like that, like I do feel like his conflict in himself, like, is very justified. Like, oh my god, this is kind of his fault that he didn't aim for Thanos' head. Like, he's kind of, I'm not saying like like Thanos probably maybe could have gotten out of that another way, but still, like, he feels really responsible for everything. And so, like, I totally get, yeah, people with depression, they do go through those certain, these different stages and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, exactly what Jet said. It's like, oh, look at him, he's fat. Look at that fat suit. Isn't it hilarious? Oh, you guys, look at that. But it's like, no, like, when like, Hulk says Thanos to him, or Banner, Bruce, both of them, I guess, whatever, Professor Hulk, when he says, like, when he mentions his name, you can see the, like, horror on his face. Like, he hates just talking about it, reliving, like, he relives that moment every single time he hears the word Thanos, that name. And, like, you could see he has so much PTSD from that. And that's seriously, like, something serious to take in. And they start out serious, and then they just land on a, like, a fat joke. And that's the part where I just felt like it's supposed to be, like, it looks funny, and people are laughing, but it's like, no, this is actually serious what he's going through, So I just felt like they could have done a better job of addressing that trauma that he has, without making it so much of a joke. Like, I guess you can make fun of it, poke fun at him a little bit, but they did it way too often. I think that was the problem.
Not only that, like, Hulk was kind of more the sacrificial character for all the kind of humor, and I hate to say it, they used it for advertising moment because they had the fucking Fortnite thing pop off in the background during his reveal.
Yeah.
We're in the background playing PlayStation and playing Fortnite. And it's literally just a 5-minute say, hey, we got Fortnite, man. That. The kids nowadays, they playing that. Stand up and cheer, guys. Throw those up. He's hit. Well, he's down with the Fortnite.
Well, that's the thing that's really frustrating me too, is like, and this is where I get more, and like the movie, it's not that bad, and this is not going to change a rating or anything, but it's just how I talk casually to fans of this shit. This is where I end up getting a little crazy, because people talk shit about Transformers and all these things. Oh, I can't believe all the, like, product placement and all this shit and blah blah. It's so fucking lame. How stupid. But yet a Power Rangers will come out and do a Krispy Kreme fucking joke, a big one, by the way, and it's fucking fine. Avengers does this shit every single movie, and it's fine. Shazam had a fucking scene where they're playing Mortal Kombat. By the way, doing that 1980s bullshit where, like, they're just tapping the controller, not actually playing the fucking game. And Shazam, since he has superpowers, he could do it all fucking fast. And then this one, they're in a different super world, and they're playing Fortnite on fucking TV, like Thor would give a fuck about Fortnite. And then John Cheadle just starts naming off fucking time machine movies like Terminator, Back to the Future. It's like, dude, stop trying to, like, fucking, I don't know, like, poke at some of these fucking nerds, like, hey, we brought it up, don't you like that? Yeah, why don't you fucking, like, jerk off to this fucking reference? Like,
hey, you get this reference? You remember that? That gets your dick hard? Yeah.
Yeah, or even like a silly part too, like Doctor Strange when he comes out with the fucking yellow bubbles that look ridiculous. By the way, that shit was silly. At the end, I started laughing. But he comes out and then Tony's like, "So this is the way we win, right?" "Oh, I can't tell you. It would ruin the." Or he's like, "If I tell you, it's not gonna happen." And it's like, is that like a spoiler joke? Like as soon as I came out, I was like, "Yeah, no spoilers." That's literally what I was thinking of, and I'm like,
well, I think that's like a time travel thing.
Yeah.
If you know what's going to happen, you can't do it. That's like Back to the Future. That's anything. So I'm
on the fence with Nick. I'm kind of like, all right. I feel like they made that for memeable things.
Mm-hmm. But it's just like it's like one of those things like, whoa, the fans are gonna like this one, and then it's like, okay, if you're gonna do that, fine, let's do some creative ones. I do not know why Michonne, by the way, Denai Guerrilla was not in the movie, but yet
no one from Black Panther really was until the very fucking end.
Yeah, but there's a scene in Infinity War where Scarlet Witch is just standing doing fucking nothing because she's so goddamn boring, and Denai Guerrilla says, "Damn, why was she up there the whole time?" When she finally comes out to help. You could have did the same thing with Captain Marvel this time. It would have been a great joke. It would have, paired this with Infinity War and have Denai Guerrilla say.
Well, they did.
Actually, brings me to a really interesting point. Did anyone watch? I didn't see Captain Marvel.
Neither did I.
I did.
I got halfway through it.
I
Who
watched
did?
it.
Jet did. Did
Oh,
Ellie
wait.
yeah.
I watched.
I only got halfway. Allie finished it.
Yeah.
Okay. My point is this: like, I asked some fucker in line, like, "Yo, should I have seen this movie?" And they were like, "No," but they seemed like a Trump supporter, so I couldn't trust them. My point is, like, did I miss anything? Because her inclusion in the film seems so fucking auxiliary, right? Like, oh, she's here because the plot needs her to take Tony back to Earth. Like, I did not like her inclusion at all, and I really love Brie Larson. I just didn't like that character's inclusion.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like, oh, hey, we got Captain Marvel now in this universe, so let's like make some scenes where she's in it, so she's included. But it just didn't feel like if she was left out, it kind of would have been all else the same, the same conclusion and outcome. I would say if you watch Captain Marvel, you'll know more about her character. And after the credit scene is really what you need to watch. I feel like everything else about her character you don't really need to know about for Endgame, just the after credit scene. Because but at the same, yeah, I'll say that because it really made no difference that like she had a relationship with Nick Fury in her, not relationship, but like friendship with Nick Fury in her movie, because Nick didn't even have any lines and anything like that. So like, but the end credit scene is the only thing that's connecting her to Avengers, that she actually met them first on Earth, because the end credit scene in Infinity War has Nick call out to Captain Marvel from space, that Nick gives her in Captain Marvel. So that's why she first goes in like, oh, hey, so like this thing happened. We don't know if Tony is still out there or something, like they're still out there somewhere in space. So like, can you go and find them? That's probably how she found him, because she was looking for him in the first place, because like, oh, Tony's still in space. So we need to go. Yeah. So that's why, like, it's not like she was just wandering in space. Like, oh, look at that ship. Oh, okay. I need to bring him back. Like, yeah, no, it's not like that. They're actually a little bit more connected, but you wouldn't know that.
Because it just seems like if you had a Dr. Manhattan character in your back pocket the whole time, you probably would have introduced it before the fucking
right. And like the excuse they give for her not being more involved or being there sooner in the Marvel universe makes sense. I mean, yeah, like there are a lot of planets out there so that don't have the Avengers, so she's helping those planets out, and she's very powerful, so she can handle all that stuff by herself. So like, Earth's got the Avengers, they're cool. So like, she doesn't really necessarily need to monitor that area of the galaxy any more than anywhere else. So I get why she's been gone, because like all that stuff's happening on everywhere else in the galaxy too. So, but still, as a movie, it's like you have this whole entire movie for her, dedicated to her, and then she's barely in it, and she's actually probably like the person that could have whole-handedly defeated Thanos, because she's so powerful. Like she basically Thanos literally like punched her with the gauntlet, and she was just like, whatever.
Well, that's the thing that was frustrating too. Is like there's like 30 seconds of what the fuckery that happened at the end too, and this will be the last negative thing I'm gonna say, and then we'll get into ratings and everything. But it's like at the very end of the movie, there's a part where she comes down, she's beating the fuck up Thanos, she's doing really cool shit. The thing that frustrated me is the fact that, for one, when Iron Man had the fucking gauntlet, like, we know what the gauntlet can do without the snap. Like, there's other shit that the gauntlet can do. There's a bunch of things it can do, and it could totally like win this fucking like mini war that's going on Earth, where this whole thing's going on. But Captain Marvel is so easily like fucking stopped. Like Thanos just kicks her, and that's it for her. I mean, it's like lights the fuck out, right?
Well, to be fair, he pulls out a fucking Infinity Stone
Yeah.
to punch her. Like, I mean, like,
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like this
it's
girl
not
is so
super
powerful.
shitty. It's not a regular kick or whatever. But I feel your ultimate point. Sure.
Yeah, but then like right afterwards, I mean, Iron Man has it. He has the same shit. So it's like, dude, use the time stone or something and like reverse that, or like use power, or use soul, or what the fuck does the soul even do?
What does the soul stone do?
Yeah, it's just like
Well, the only thing the stone stone. There we go. Stop drinking. Like, this is obviously an imposition.
You almost got it there.
But the only thing it does is it super kills you. Like, right? Because Gamora's dead. Gamora's fucking dead, except for 2014 Gamora, who's obviously alive and kicking. Nat, because let's talk about this too. We live in a world where we have to acknowledge the sequels. Like, if we lived in a world where we didn't know that Spider-Man 2 is coming out in 3 months, like, that would be fucking lit. But instead, we know that Black Panther 2, Spider-Man 2, there's a Black Widow movie coming out, there's a Guardians 3. Like, there are all these things that we have to reckon with. And maybe it's unfair because it's not fair to the movie studio, but like, because we live in the age of internet, we know all of these things that are coming out. And so it makes it a little less dramatic, right? Like when Spider-Man gets turned into dust, which in my opinion is the emotional core of Infinity War, if not a part of the emotional core. He ends up just like we know, like, well, they already announced Spider-Man 2, so this motherfucker's coming back, right? Like, so it doesn't make you feel sad or scared or stuck in awe about what's going to happen because you figure, well, it doesn't matter. He'll come back in time to do that July release date. You know what I mean?
exactly, yeah, and that's the thing that just frustrates the fuck out of me is like that whole bit there. It's just all these things. I'm like, I just have so many questions, and it's you know that almost felt like too short, that fight scene, and I'm like, because of that, you know, I came to this movie and the trailer knows what it's doing. It's like, yeah, we're gonna tell you the first 20 minutes, we're gonna let you know that's gonna be some big shit, right? This whole movie was building up big shit that was already built. You didn't have to build on the, like, why would you build a building on a building? It's fucking done. Just live in it.
Thank you. No, what you're really saying is why put a hat on a hat, which
Exactly.
is a writer's term. Never put a hat on a hat because a hat's a fucking hat already.
Exactly.
Like, there's no fucking reason to do that. And this is essentially what the film did, is to put a hat on a hat, but they disguised it as an action sequence.
Exactly, yeah, and because of that, like, yeah,
Pizza, go get your pizza.
but at this point, like, yeah, I mean, we have our rating system. I know you're not used to it, so I'll have you give me an out of 5. But for me, when it comes to that, I'll give this a stream it. It's a 3 out of 5 for me. The reason why I say stream it is because you can get the exact same story. Honestly, I was mad I didn't watch this in bootleg because I paid extra money to see this in a nice, beautiful fucking theater, so I can be like, oh, it's gonna be great, all this action shit. Nothing. I could have watched this on the bootleg and barely seen shit, but it's all dialogue. I don't need to pay for fucking dialogue. Like, if I would have seen a good adult movie instead.
I'll disagree with you there. I think dialogue is perfect, and we've disagreed about Game of Thrones a lot, but that show is at its best when it's not ice zombies killing people.
But you get to watch it at home, which is comfortable. You can chill.
Sure, that is a good point. You made it a theater experience. You went out to something. You want to have a spectacle to see. But that's not that, you know, in general about story. It's like, it's not about action. It's about the emotional core of conversations. And so, you know, and we've done a really shitty job here. And again, maybe I'm fucked up, so I don't know if we've done a good job. But I would say that I think we've done a shitty job of explaining story instead of just being shitty about things we didn't like. Because it's like, that's my issue with the third act, is that, like, there is no story. It's purely about what they can make to make this a grander epic. You know, like even Captain America's ending, it's pretty on paper. Think about it for half a second. Not pretty at all. Like, a lot of horrific shit happens because of this decision to give him a proper send-off. And so that's kind of my issue with it. Like, it's one of those things, like, have you ever heard like a political debate where someone says something that sounds good in theory, but if you think about it for half a second, you're like, that doesn't make sense, right? Like,
libertarianism.
There's one politician, I forget who he is, but he's like, I'm against crime, and I'm not afraid to say that. It's like, well, fucking of course, crime is terrible. Like, what? You're not saying anything of substance here, man, and that's the entirety.
We have to stop crime.
Yeah,
we have to stop it right now.
Hey, here at the MCA, we support private property destruction. All right.
my point. The whole movie is like this really baseless, fucking like empty action political statement. It's like it doesn't amount to anything unless you make the character moments matter. And it sucks because at one point these character moments were the saving grace of all of these films, you know. But I feel like they lost their way somewhere in between. And it's like I can admit that this is an achievement from a cinematic point of view, but it's not a great film by any stretch of the imagination. And it's like, for anyone, I can't see the chat anymore, so people are probably like, Christian, shut the fuck up. But I would challenge all of you, like, please tell me what you liked about the film, because I'm positive I can give you alternatives to why it isn't the beautiful ending that you think it is. But that's just me. I would love to hear everyone else. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, like Ali, I'm gonna ask you really quick, just last moment thoughts, and then as well as like, what would you rate this? Oh.
Damn,
she waits until I'm about to talk to do this. Like, she knows. She's too smart. I can't with her. But I'm gonna talk over her or whatever she's doing. Okay, so yeah, I know we've been kind of all over the place with like what we've been saying. But ultimately, I just want to say that this felt so much more of a fan service movie than a coherent film. Like, there was no structure. There was no, like, the theme and the tone of it was just all over the place. And it just didn't mesh well together because there's just, like, too much seriousness and darkness. And then all of a sudden, there's just very lightheartedness and comedy that just not balance each other out very well. And it's very jarring, especially from Infinity War coming over to this movie. It's just, like, it doesn't blend well, and it was a very confusing experience for me, at least. Like, I guess if you're a fan, it's cool to have all those Easter eggs, but it's like from that Infinity War, I just felt like it was so much more of like, okay, this really flows very nicely. I feel like it's a little bit more organic. All of the reactions, the story points are much more natural. And here, it just felt very forced and not something that, like, I feel like, I just feel like it kind of, they just pieced together, oh, this would be cool. Oh, I want to do this. I have this idea. And like, okay, let's put it all in the script and we'll make it work somehow. Yeah, that's fine. And it's like they didn't proofread it to really pay attention to like, oh, wait, hold up. Like Christian said, like it sounds fine at first or it looks fine, but then you think about it afterwards for like 5 minutes and you're like, hold up, like, what? It's just... Mm-hmm. The time travel thing was just, I don't think, it rarely ever works in movies because it's just so hard to explain and for things to make sense. And that was just such a really boring part of the movie. I saw this movie twice in theaters, and at first I was enjoying myself because it's the first time I'm seeing it. I didn't know what I was expecting. When I knew what was going on and I rewatched it, it loses a lot of its rewatchability because you're just waiting for the first part to be over. I literally almost fell asleep in the theater because like I was just like, there's just nothing going on. Like, it was kind of cool they went back in time, but then they didn't really do much with that. And they're like, oh, well, this didn't work, so let's just go back in time more so and do this. And it's just like, what? Like, little character moments was nice.
Right. I think we're talking about the same thing, Ali, which, unless I'm wrong, please tell me, but the Loki of it all, right? Which, Nick, earlier I screamed about, like, in an empty room about, like, the Loki! What the fuck? Yeah. Like, just losing my shit about it because it's like, they go to great lengths to explain that, like, well, whatever happens, happens, and when this happens, a different stream of reality begins to occur, and okay, so Loki ends up stealing an Infinity Stone, and they're just like, we can just go back in time. And then they do that. Yeah, and it doesn't solve the main fucking issue of the fucking movie already.
There's a whole other movie of where Loki went.
Well, and we were setting it up for that Disney Plus series that he's doing.
But that's the thing, though. It's like, with this whole time traveling thing and bringing people back, you lose all of that emotional resonance that you had with these characters and what they went through and the relationships they built. All of that's erased. So Thanos, all he did, Gamora, all that she did, Loki, everything with him, like all those people, all of their history is erased because you mess with time. So it's like by the end, yeah, it's a cool scene. It's a cool action scene. I enjoyed it. I'll watch that part probably 50 million times over. But you're fighting basically like a clean slate character that like they don't have any recollection of anything that happened. Because it didn't happen yet. So it's like, it's just like, it didn't have any sort of emotional impact. I felt very empty at the end. Tony, you saw him dying coming because, like, oh, well, you kind of like teased it, but like everyone knew he was gonna die because Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to keep playing this character. He's tired, so it's like you saw this coming. Either Captain America was gonna get it, or Tony, or both of them. You saw one of them going.
Well,
So
that
it's like,
brings us to the end of the film, which I want to talk about, which is like Tony Stark. I guess you kind of figured he was on his way out. I think everyone would agree with that. Also, quickly, is it too dark in this bitch, or should I like?
Oh no, you're good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, Captain America, like in theory, it's a beautiful ending because Captain America deserves to grow old and he deserves to live in the way that all of us do. I think that's very pretty. But again, think about it for half a second. Like he goes back and he doesn't correct any of the time things that were going to happen anyway. This is the biggest thing about time travel. And Allie, you alluded to it. It's like time travel never works.
He could have stopped MLK from getting shot, but he didn't.
Right? Go back and fix important things. Like fuck Tony Stark. But that's my point. It's just like,
I want my do-wop pussy.
when you do time travel shit, you already open yourselves up to an inordinate amount of skepticism, right? Like, and scrutiny, rather. And it's just like I'm looking at this whole scene and being like, it just never ended up being what it should have been. Because if you make like credit to Bruce Banner for having that whole scene about like either it's all serious or it's not serious, because like that's a good thing to mention in a time travel film, unless you immediately betray your own logic, which is what they did. And that's kind of my fucking larger issue with it is like, don't bring up, you know, a part of me was so excited about the Back to the Future 2 thing because like it's weird. Like Back to the Future 2 doesn't make any sense either, but at least it follows its own sense. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So you can watch yourself go through the events of the first film and it's fine. With this one, it just felt like it was really cheap and it just seemed like people who didn't understand the concept of what they were doing.
yeah, they just like they ran out of ideas, and the best thing they could think of was time travel. You know,
Basically,
like,
some X-Men shit over again.
it's just it felt stupid compared to the first part, like where it just felt like a very more intelligent script and everything kind of made sense within the realm of everything, and this one just felt like everything fell apart. So I felt like it was very unsatisfying, and I just feel a little gypped. This is why I don't get hyped for movies anymore. I let myself get too carried away. I thought this is going to be amazing. Like, Infinity War is so amazing. This is going to be like the icing on
top. What did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen in your best case scenario? Allie gets to write Avengers. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Hell, I don't know. I don't have the answers. That's why I'm not a writer.
Right.
You know, to be honest, I thought maybe there was a point. Yeah, this probably doesn't sound as good anyway. I thought there was a point of their like alternate universes, kind of like the Spider Universe. So like that might have worked. I don't know. It could have been as stupid as time travel. Okay, but I felt like if they were like maybe transported to another realm, maybe would have made like within a comic books if they have that happen. That
Right.
could have, because you have all of the major characters that have been with the movies and been there for a long time in one part where they didn't die or turn into dust, and all the new people basically did. I thought that basically would have explained kind of like splitting the universe and having one side, you know, continue on with the universe with them and the other live out their lives separately. Again, I don't know if that would have worked. It might have been just as stupid. That's
I think
kind
it
of what
would
I
have
thought.
worked more than the answer they gave us. I mean,
I
that's the
can
thing.
actually answer this. If God's Guru was going to write this stuff and I had a nice fat joint that Snoop Dogg shit, if I was going to actually write this down, the biggest thing with this is the problem of the phases and the fact that they got to continue on to these other sequels and these other movies that we know they're going to be making. They've already said they're going to make the characters coming back for certain ones. Every Disney Expo, they fucking settle on that of what we're going to be doing this year or what's coming out in the next 2 to 3 years. So there's nothing really that's underground and nothing that we cannot have spoiled for us. So with that done, it's very hard to do final stories. I would love to do final stories where some of the characters are just gone. And if Infinity War, I probably would have killed off some of the old characters like they probably should have gone early, like people expected with Captain America or Iron Man, and done some more off in this one, and then allowed a new universe to grow out of that, similar to what you saw in the Marvel Ultimate Universe, or hell, even the original run now, what they're doing now, with new characters that are continuing the mantle of old ones that have passed on, or have got too old in the case of Captain America, which I think that storyline is perfect for it, but I also think the way they handled it was very, because it involved time travel and it added the idea of like, hey, so many plot holes can come through this that there's nothing way out of it. Honestly, with Captain America, you could have had him do the ultimate sacrifice again, where it involved him either using a alternate universe, like Alice says, they get in contact one where they can grab Infinity Stones or gauntlets from that and use it in their own universe. Because Marvel does that all the time, where Universe C5, Universe B3. It's always been in their history, so people can't get mad at that because that's a staple of the Marvel universe.
Well, so that's my biggest criticism, and not to cut you off, man, but like the Captain America thing for me, and people like I remember Dolores, my fiance, she called me out when we saw Infinity War because I was so disillusioned with it, and she's like, "Motherfucker, you wanted this to be a Captain America movie." And it's like, yeah, that's accurate because Captain America, for better or for worse, he is the heart and soul of, in my opinion, the MCU. Like everything goes through that character. And so when you think about that, they give him this ending, which is beautiful in theory. He gets to grow old. He gets to have the life that he always wanted. But again, think about the implications. Hydra infiltrates the United States government. Red Skull and the Nazis win. Bucky continues to be tortured by Russians for 70 years. Like there's a lot of that stuff where you hear that decision and you're like, yay, good for him, he gets to be old, but also what the fuck happens to the world at large that we know? And so like it just seems really disingenuous for that character, unless I'm wrong. Allie, you look like you got some shit to say.
This is where it comes with time travel, which I don't agree should ever be in a movie again, because if Bucky, let's say this, Bucky was still tortured by Russians, he would still be a Winter Soldier, but how is he still in the realm in the
quantum realm?
If he's still in in this universe where Captain America is now old and he's looking at Captain America or Steve and he's like, oh, look at him, blah 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 blah. But it's like, shouldn't he not be there in the first place? That's why, again, time travel is the worst thing ever, especially in such a movie that set up something so smart and or much more smarter than this. That it just makes no sense when you start thinking about it more. Like, wait, this shouldn't have happened because that happened, and Nebula killing herself, her past self, should have killed her. And
didn't that whole scene read to you like a fucking really bad sci-fi film about like a wife who has to pick which husband is the android?
Oh my god, it's just too much. Her head starts exploding. And that's why they should not put time travel, especially in these blockbuster movies like this. Y'all should have known better than put time travel, which again is not really time travel. How can you go in a quantum realm where you get smaller and change time that way? It just does not flow, and you start just overthinking things, and you having that meme of that woman that's just like, you just can't.
It's a great point, Allie. You're not wrong at all. And that's the problem. It's just like people are so wound up in the spectacle of it all that they don't really think about some of the issues. One of the issues I had, again, is just like, look, I think it's great when we see Black Panther come out all silhouetted in the fucking, the Doctor Strange little portal hole or whatever. Like, all that's cool. But at the same time, it's like, are you not curious what happened in that other world? I'm sorry to bring up The Leftovers again. But I adore that show, and the only time you ever get to find out what happened to the departed is from a story, which is a secondhand account. We never cut to the footage of what happened. It's someone literally telling a story, and somehow that makes it more beautiful because you don't know. We hear Peter Parker talking for half a second about I was asleep, and then Doctor Strange says it's been 5 years, and blah 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 blah, and it's just none of that story matters to me. None of the people who went away matter at all because they came back and they never skipped a beat. Imagine being erased from fucking existence for a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah, speaking of that, I forgot who brought this up. I think Diaz brought it up. But Spider-Man and his classmates, did they all get wiped, or is that all new kids? Or
yeah, because it's been 5 years.
Here's the thing too, is I feel like
all be in college for sure. Go ahead, Allie.
Exactly. It's like, what if some of his friends did not get turned to dust? We don't know which one of his friends did. But yeah, they would have been in college at this point.
No, they could be stupid motherfuckers, Allie. They could have failed.
To be fair, they should look older. Either way, they should be looking older. Okay, so it's again, another paradox. Okay, did Aunt May stay behind? Did she go too? That's how I feel.
Back to my point of do you motherfuckers appreciate the original Avengers yet? Because it was so easy. It was so simple. You understood the stakes, and this one I gotta think too hard.
If they just not put time travel and figure out another way of trying to get these stones or something, they shouldn't have made it to like where Thanos destroyed them or something. Like they could have gone with a whole other plot to just find the stones somewhere else. Maybe Thanos just re-hid them somewhere or something. But like,
Ali's got a point. They should have went after the Dragon Balls.
no, but still, like this movie, I have to go soon because I'm about to go to a Game of Thrones watch party.
I was actually about to go too.
So I just want to give my rating real quick. But yeah, like it's confusing. It really makes your head just kind of burst when you think about it more and more. And yes, visually, some of the parts are really awesome to see. Like that last final battle scene was freaking amazing. And it, like, I still feel like it's a little pandering, especially with like the all-female cast, which is awesome to see. But at the same time, it's like, you guys, look, it's all women.
Right. That's the whole thing with the,
And
like,
then don't even do a real fight scene with it.
Black Widow in it, which she was the original Avenger, yet she's not in that scene, which she should be. She deserves that spot. I'm just saying. And then Pepper comes in for no freaking, like, wait, what?
Thank
I
you.
forgot.
No,
I forgot she had
Allie, I adore you. You're my favorite person in the world because the Pepper inclusion pissed me the
You know what she's there.
nowhere. Like, I remember Iron Man 3.
I'll explain it. She's only there because they couldn't use Black Widow because she's dead.
Yes.
But the other woman that's been there since day one. Pepper. That's the only reason she's there.
Probably, like, I get it because Iron Man 3, like, she got some sort of powers and she was, like, kicking butt, whatever. But, like, the rest of the time, she was just the romantic interest, like, oh, Tony, let me do this, clean this up for you, whatever. Like, you never saw any point of where she was learning any combat skills, anything that Tony was doing, how his suits worked, never showed interest in it. All of a sudden, she shows up in an Iron Man suit and she's kicking butt and she's not getting hit by anything and she's fighting better than freaking Tony is at time. Like, what? When did this happen? There's just no explanation of like why all of a sudden she's joined the Avengers. Like, it's kind of cool to see, but still at the same time it makes no sense compared to like what her character has been all this time and what's been developed.
So let me ask you this, because I think this is the important question. Does this herald in a new era of like, hey, let's make stories smaller? I think the problem is like further along that the MCU went along, it stopped being about individual stories. The reason Guardians 1 is so special to me is because think about that movie. It has nothing to do with the MCU at large, okay? Guardians 2 is a little less special, but it nails the character moments, but it has to set up a bunch of what's to come. Do you think, like, I know they just acquired X-Men, so now you have like Doctor Doom, you have Galactus, you have some really what's the word I'm looking for, intense fucking existential villains to deal with that are on the same level as Thanos in terms of like world ending, but does this herald in a new era of like, hey man, let's go back to single stories, man, because single stories are like we need a palate cleanser. We need 5 years of no connective tissue before we can start another shared universe, because I'm just not feeling it, man.
Yeah, I hope so. It's ending. I hope it's going to go back to like its roots of being more of just like these single-handed stories, because I kind of enjoy that, and I feel like that's actually where DC is heading to, which is actually kind of nice. You don't have to always lead up to this big, huge universe. Like, it's ran its course, and I think they need to definitely focus more on character development and their personal, like, villains and all that, or characters within, like, their little mini universe of, like, the different, like, characters. So, but yeah, I hope that it leads to that. I just wanted to give my rating because I gotta go because I'm about to be really late. But I would give it a stream it. I think it's worth watching. I think it's enjoyable the first time. You're not going to really enjoy it as much the second time. You're really just going to be looking for Easter eggs or something and skipping through most of it at that point. So like I definitely matinee price maybe as well you could do. But it's really like, it's nice seeing it in the theater, but it's not really worth it. Like, it's not worth the crowds. It's not worth the extra amount of money for ticket admission. I think it's a letdown, to be honest, and I think it really does end the universe or this whole phase on a whimper. And I felt like the characters deserved a lot better, much more better treatment. So that's just my take on it. You guys have a great rest of your night. OMG, Game of Thrones. I'm out. Peace out.
Bye, Allie. See you soon, girl.
Ganja Guru, I'm gonna ask you real quick, man. What would you rate this real quick? Because I gotta get the fuck out of here too, sir.
Pretty much, I can't disagree with y'all because y'all pretty much had the same kind of complaints and criticism that I had. The only thing I would add into it, I felt like the jokes kind of fell flat. Everyone says they kind of enjoyed it. Me personally, I felt that they were just a lot of reference humor and just pretty easy fat jokes. It never really made me laugh. The ones that did make me laugh were more that were situation. Actually, were pointing out the hypocrisy of some of the storyline. Like the Black Future stuff kind of made me laugh a little bit, but then again, they went right back to recess humor with Don Cheeto. So with that being said, I'm going to give it a rental. in terms of story overall, again, people's criticism of story build up, and how I felt it kind of just collapsed at the end of it, and didn't give a bunch of wrap ups that I really wanted, and I really was hyped for this film to a certain degree. But it followed the same superhero trend. Heroes got to defeat the villains, and very few repercussions for later on. And the ones that are there are completely left over for plot holes or things they don't really care about actually exploring, or they're going to leave later for TV shows like with the Loki plot hole left over in the last heist. So with that said, stream it officially. But if you're a Marvel fan, this is definitely a low full price. You're going to enjoy going to see it there. You're a fan of the series. They have big, huge fight scenes. I was at least enjoying the whole time I was sitting there. It didn't feel like a theater movie, but in terms of people trying to say this is a masterpiece or a cinematic thing that should probably get an Oscar, hold your horses. It's not there yet, but it was a fun film.
Jet Jackson.
Hello.
Hey there. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah. What would you rate this?
So the whole thing is, what's so sad about this is, like, this movie, like, underneath all the bullshit, actually could be a good movie and also a very enjoyable one. The problem is they go back on so much fucking character development with certain characters. The time travel shit, I don't know what crackhead the Russos thought of that bullshit. It doesn't work. Everyone who tries to explain it to me, I don't get it because it still doesn't make sense. We even have a friend that says, like, no, this isn't even time travel. It's like dimension jumping, and it's just like, even then that doesn't make sense because, like, Steve's, like, ending basically, like, kind of fucks that up. Like, it just does not work. But at the same time, I did enjoy a lot of the jokes that happened in here, despite the fact a lot of them were very, very in poor taste. It's just, I can't see myself watching this over again. I would just be super bored. Like, maybe I watched, like, a couple, like, of the fight scenes, like, on YouTube or something like that, but having to sit 3 hours for, like, I guess some very, very boring dialogue and all this other stuff, like, nah, I can't do it. In all, like, I have to give it probably just to stream it.
Yeah, and I was gonna say Mr. Ganja Guru. No, but you are also a guy who enjoys the name Ganja. You're just like this man. But I'm gonna ask you to quick argument right now was streaming. I think I already said that, but if not, I'll say that shit again. Stream it for me. But it's Christian Torres Elion. How about
you? Yeah, stream. I mean, like, dude, here's the problem. Like, Jet said it. There were a lot of moments. There were a lot of forks in the road where I think they could have really elevated this story, and for me, it just never happened. It's not to say that it isn't a cinematic achievement. I can imagine, like, listen, it's so much easier to be a Monday morning quarterback to say, this is what's wrong with it. We didn't write it. Like, fuck me, dude. I can imagine the titanic undertaking that it took to make this film. I want to give credit where credit's due. But for me, it just never coalesced into something that actually mattered. The time travel was super convoluted. The entire thing is overstuffed. It's 3 hours long when it needs to be like 2 hours and 10 minutes, probably tops. Like, I really hope that this is a satisfying conclusion and we can kind of get into smaller stories, but by no means is this a great must-see Avengers movie. It is a must-see purely because you've invested 10 years, a decade of your life into it, not because it deserves it on its own merit. And so for that, yeah, man, it's like a rental for me. Like, definitely. Maybe a high rental. It's worth to be seen. It is a spectacle, but the story's not where the rest of the series needs to be.
Yeah, no, and I absolutely agree with that. And here's the thing, man. It's like, we didn't hate it completely. We didn't talk a bunch of shit about it, but it's just one of those things where I just wish that some of you guys who watch some of these things, and it's funny because, like, me and Christian were at it on Facebook about certain things too. But it's like, I'm guilty of this too. I need to stop this myself. Where Walking Dead will have a new season coming out, and I'm freaking the fuck out. Sometimes it happens with lots of other shows, Game of Thrones, Marvel shows, The Defenders, and I watched all that shit. And I gotta tell you, people liking Luke Cage, they're fucking crazy. Like, how the fuck do you like Luke Cage? I do not understand. But the thing is, it's just like, yeah, if you act like that, if you, like, people were like, yay, Luke Cage, yay, Daredevil. Well, if you go so fucking yay, you get an Iron Fist. If you would have told them they sucked, Iron Fist probably would have been good. They would have actually put some fucking work that time. Right. But no, you fucking go yay for every goddamn thing, and then you're stuck with Star Wars movies you don't like. You're stuck with fucking Marvel shows you don't like. And it's like, just don't let the hype get to you. Just say how it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can we talk about the fact, like, the Russos basically really did plan this? Like, the whole, like, oh, don't spoil the movie, like, oh, super spoilers and stuff like that, only covered up basically a very mediocre movie. People aren't going to say, like, yeah, this movie's bad. They spent so much time avoiding the internet and avoiding spoilers and whatnot. They're not gonna try to basically be disappointed by a movie that they tried so hard to basically see super fresh.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, don't spoil. Don't tell people this movie sucks, please.
Right.
People are literally getting beaten up for spoilers, and it's just like, did the spoilers really even matter in this movie?
Yeah, and by the way, did
Right.
we all see what was coming? Because I'm pretty sure that Christian, you probably knew what was gonna happen. Yeah.
I think we talked about it. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
problem. Like, and I was the asshole and double toasted, but I'm just like, what do you mean spoilers? Like, you know what the fuck's gonna happen. Everyone's coming back. Like, and I didn't even feel that was a satisfying ending or explanation as to how everyone came back. You know what I mean? So I guess the bigger part, the bigger question is this, and we should probably end it on this if you will allow it to be so, Mr. Diaz. But like, how do we all feel? I mean, do we feel like, look, we're a little burned down on Marvel, but if they're going to start smaller, do we have faith and hope in the future, or are we kind of burned out? For me, if they can go to smaller personal stories, I'm fucking in, man. I really think that's what Marvel needs, but they might be a little too obsessed with the connective tissue, and I think it might be to the detriment. Jet, I want to ask you, how do you feel about this?
Honestly, I don't feel they should do another Avengers movie for a very, very long time until you actually get your shit together and actually get a solid like state for all these characters.
Yeah, and I feel like the time travel thing should be used for the other movies. I mean, this is part of your world now, so it's like, I know I hate it, but you better keep fucking doing it. You committed to it, so do it. And I think if you're gonna do that, there's no reason why Killmonger should not be in Black Panther 2. That's your best fucking villain. He's fucking amazing.
Wow, that is interesting, and that is something I hadn't thought of. But you're right. Now that we have the introduction of time travel, who's to say that like it's only for the good, right? Like everyone should be using time travel now because it's a weapon. It's the Chekhov's gun of your universe. You put it in there, we have to use it. So it's gonna make the next phase of the Marvel universe certainly way more interesting, I think.
Hopefully, it doesn't end up like X-Men.
Me personally,
I hope not.
I think they got to give space. I'm kind of with Jet. They got to take a break. And I would say take a break to the Star Wars stuff, but they dropped the ball on that shit too. And to a certain degree, I kind of feel this kind of shows how the Star Wars being handled by Disney, and so is Marvel now. It's starting to show its way with the idea of constantly keeping with the trend, selling these movies out for every 1 year, maybe a year and a half, depending on what kind of film production is going by, to keep these markets going and to keep people interested in these different types of brands. And with that said, I don't think there's nothing interesting to come out of this without a nice break to actually build up the universe, get some real good scripts written, and to figure out how you're going to plan this out. Because if I'm not recall, the first and second phase were planned out way almost 10 years before the films were actually made or the characters were directed or casted. So with that said, they got to give that same kind of love to it and not just trying to rush it out for a quick dollar because now it's celebrated as a cold generation of people that are in love with superheroes. Mm-hmm. Because what's going to end up happening, they're going to run the trend to the ground. And who knows? We might even see Westerns come back because fuck it. At this point, people are just looking for trends that give nostalgia on here. And that Westerns are the best ones for it. So with that being said, if they don't give a break from it and give people either a space time like little superhero films from these big ones, I can see the trend really hitting the ground. I've kind of been preaching that for a while now.
Now you know what?
Again, I think it comes. I'm sorry, Nick, to cut you off, but I think it comes down to individuality within the comic book adaptation. There's a reason we all took to Logan. There's a reason we all took to Deadpool, whether you liked the movie or not. They were just different from the Marvel homogenized thing. Yeah. And I think that even within Marvel, like Guardians really stands out because it was so separate for a while. And I think that that's what they need to harken back to. Like we're so used to the Marvel brand now that we need to be surprised. We need to be genuinely like shocked by something when it happens. And I don't know how we do that unless we get out of the comfort zone that we're currently in. So like let's all marvel, unintended, at how wonderful this may or may not have ended. I think it's still a monumental achievement, but let's not rest on our laurels, man. Let's demand better comic book films because we all know, everyone in here, like comic books are not secondary art. Like there are some really great stories to be told, and it just needs to be told properly.
And there's also some great stories to be told on this wonderful fucking podcast website, A Little Fire Burning.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you, man. First of all, Ganj, I love you, but where are my fucking episodes at, B? Like, where's my Illuminati at, man?
We got episodes, man. We're working on it. Hey, just don't look, man. I got other people. Alan's sick. He got the bird flu. We're working on it. All right.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, let me make a very quick plug. A Little Fire Burning is my website. It's not to step on the toes of Double Toasted. I absolutely love them. I actually go a little bit more analytical. So you have my personal podcast, Where's My Burrito, which is just me talking shit. It's me being drunk a lot. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's just me being really drunk and scared about the world. So listen to it. Where's My Burrito? It's on Apple Podcast and on Stitcher. And then, movies and shit and the Illuminati. And like, there's so many. I'm so proud of this website because we're building such good quality content. If they would give me fucking episodes, Ganja. So my point is this. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to pimp it out. I really appreciate it. And I will be back as often as you will have me, Nick. I feel so honored to be a part of this fucking show with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. And you make me want to drink. Like, I gotta say, man, you make that shit look very, very fun over there. Just drinking up a
I'm the
bunch
most
and then
sophisticated drunk because I still like talk eloquently. I think, unless I'm just like slurring my words right now. But yeah, man, anytime you want to drink with me, let's do it, brother.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna happen. Last time I drank, I almost threw up, and it was awful because Ganja probably did not want to spend a bunch of money on me just complaining the entire fucking time. So sorry, Ganja. But with that said, we're gonna get the fuck out of here too. I know Alan usually would be plugging his One of Us stuff. So oneofus.net. There's a Gotham podcast. There's nerdy shit. I think there's a Cheeto Pup podcast. Who fucking knows what that goddamn stuff?
We got Mormon on staff.
No, but seriously, oneofus.net. Go over there, check it out. Make sure to donate to Alan's cause. He's sick. He has the chicken pox, and he has the bitch sticks. So I don't know what the fuck it is. By the way, is it weird? Has he not even told you what he's sick with? I think he's bullshitting.
He doesn't know. I keep telling him to go to the doctor, but I think he's just gonna man up and die in his room.
Oh, man. That's fucking stupid. Anyways, and then, obviously, we gotta plug our own shit, right? Yeah, Midnight Chat Attack, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all that good shit. The Chat Attack. I'm actually gonna find a way to take this midnight shit off. We're never on fucking midnight. It makes no goddamn sense. I don't know what the fuck is wrong.
Don't take it off, Daddy. My M's.
But the thing is, though, people, make sure to check us out. I'm gonna be doing some Mortal Kombat 11 gameplay, obviously, probably tonight. I want to play with you guys, Cedric. Lots of you guys that watch this. I want to play against you. Whoop your motherfucking ass. All that good stuff. I got nothing else to say. I'm going to quit my job soon. That's going to be cool. Quit my job, and then I'll be able to do Ringside Hangouts again and be able to be on here all the fucking time. So that should be nice. Anyways, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Thank you so much, Alan. You're not Alan. Ganja. On that 3, on that 2, on that 1. Attack. Damn chat, son of a bitch. Jesus.
Movie sucked.
What was that, Jet? What was that?
I said the movie fucking sucked. But not really. It was just very. It was just very fucking average. And everyone arguing about that it was the best movie ever and that other people aren't paying attention are fucking wrong. Doesn't make no goddamn sense. Get that Marvel dick out your mouth.
I take it back. I love every single thing about this movie. Since you guys are not watching now, this movie's great. It's a full price for whatever the fuck those kids. I don't know. Thank you for watching. I hate some of you.
Last 2 weeks, y'all gonna be hating this shit.
Oh, by the way, before we leave, fuck Sammy. Hey, Sammy. Good riddance, you fuck.